interest in Goethe's Faust was prompted by an illustrious mediation, that of Hector Berlioz, who dedicated his Damnation de Faust to Liszt in 1846. The favor was returned by Liszt, who dedicated to Berlioz the Faust Symphony. Now, Liszt started toying with the idea in the 1840s, but the work saw the light of day only a decade later. Liszt revised this symphony of three psychological characters, more on this later, quite a few times, adding a final chorus mysticus in 1857 and fine-tuning it until 1880. The word symphony in this case needs to be interpreted in light of the experiments Liszt was running in those years, in his everlasting attempt to break down barriers in all genres. This is not a programmatic work in the sense that Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique is, and not a symphonic poem either, a genre that Liszt himself had invented with the idea that the poetic subject would determine the form of a composition. The Faust Symphony is more of a hybrid, similar to the Dante Symphony, which, by the way, you can find right here, in which some traits of the symphony, like different movements and the sonata form, intertwine with Liszt's composing process of the symphonic poem, and more in general, of his process of thematic transformation. The symphony spans three movements, titled Faust, Gretchen by Goethe, and Mephistopheles. Each movement is a psychological exploration of a character. Liszt achieves this by developing a musical idea and exploring its many nuances, a technique that Wagner transferred to his operas in the use of the leitmotif. And if you want a more recent comparison, John Williams used the same technique in the film score for Star Wars. Hello everyone, I'm Gianmaria Griglio and I welcome you to a new episode of Conducting Pills. If you're new here, this channel is all about classical music score analysis and conducting tips. I want to thank all of my patrons for making this series possible, and now on with Liszt. The structure of the symphony, one of the most interesting and original of the 19th century, is built on a limited number of themes. Faust, the most complex character, is developed through 5 different and contrasting themes. Gretchen has 2 themes complementing one another. And Mephistopheles, and here you can really see the devious genius of Liszt, has none. Rather, he robs 4 out of 5 of Faust's themes and satanically distorts them. So, let's start with Faust. This large-scale movement, usually lasting around 30 minutes, is a very loose sonata form with a short central development and an extended recapitulation. The basic key of the symphony, C major, is already somewhat blurred by the opening theme, composed of arpeggios and augmented fifths. This theme evokes the dark Faust, a dreamer in a constant search of truth and knowledge, doubts, metaphysical questions, restlessness, contempt for the world and for oneself, as expressed in Goethe's initial monologue. And a sidekick. If you look at the theme, you'll realize it anticipates Schoenberg's 12-tone ideas. The theme is presented in this slow introduction by the violas and the cellos with mute. The answer is a second theme, poignant, complementary to the first, and built on 3 different motifs. A descending interval of a major 7th, followed by an ascending one of major 3rd, presented by the oboe and the clarinets, a sighing figure in the strings, and a descending scale, very chromatic, played by the clarinet and the bassoon. Now, due to the systematic chromatism, the home key of C major remains undefined. The episode is repeated in its entirety, leading us to the Allegro impetuoso, which is characterized by fast ascending figures. Notice the insistence of the triton, the interval also known as diabolus in musica, devil in music, because it was notoriously difficult to sing in 2. Here it represents Mephistopheles. For Liszt, since the beginning, Faust cannot be imagined without Mephistopheles, his diabolical double, his opposite, his negative. The crescendo leads to the full orchestra fortissimo, where the first theme resurfaces in the brass, while the idea of the descending scale from the second theme can be repeatedly spotted in the bass line. Gran pausa, theatrical silence, and the solo bassoon sings the second theme. Follows an allegro agitato and appassionato, which introduces the third theme. This theme, with its incessant vital tension in C minor, is intensely chromatic. It's first played by the strings only and then picked up by the whole orchestra. The wild fortissimo leads right into the espressivo and appassionato molto. It's the fourth theme in E flat major, thirsty for life. And we get to the meno mosso, misterioso e molto tranquillo. It's a transitional moment with long legato notes enriched by the sextuplets of the strings. The section refers to the moment when Faust contemplates the sign of the macrocosm and universal harmony in the book of Nostradamus. We quickly land into an allegro con fuoco, a heroic transition that makes use of elements from the third theme and anticipates rhythmically the fifth theme. The grandioso poco meno mosso introduces the fifth theme in full orchestra. It's characterized by two intervals of fifths, one descending, one ascending, and by an ascending minor third. The un poco accelerando brings a combination and elaboration of the second and fifth themes, and then a triumphal return of the fifth theme followed by a big crescendo. This concludes the exposition. The allegro agitato assai kicks off a combination in full orchestra of the first and the third theme. After a rather short development, we land on the variated third theme at the allegro and agitato assai. Within a minute, the music reaches a climax and falls on an A flat of strings and brass. That A flat is the connection to the recapitulation. It's a variated recapitulation landing on the coda at the andante maestoso assai. The coda is reminiscent of the fifth theme in G flat major this time, played by the trombones and oboes on a tremolo of the basses and a timpani roll. The very last section, starting at the più mosso molto agitato, is based on elements from the fifth, the first, and the second theme, interrupted twice. The first time with the diminuendo followed by a swirling crescendo, the second time after a percussive version of the second theme and quick chromatic figures of the strings anticipating Mephistopheles. The second theme shows up once more in the low register, played by the cellos and basses, and ending the movement in a pizzicato doubled by the timpani. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button right below this video and ring the bell so that you will get notified every time a new video comes out. For more in-depth analysis, conducting technique and conducting exercises, look on my website where you can find more than 100 videos and follow my Facebook group. And if you want to support this series, you're always welcome to do so on Patreon. All the links are in the description. Let me know in the comments what you think about this piece. If you have any suggestions for future videos, and in the next episode of this series, we'll move on to the second movement of this wonderful piece. In the meanwhile, please continue to enjoy music and be well. Ciao!